So I'm going to be reading John Steinbeck's The Moon is Down. I've never read this book before, and it was just sitting in my office, so I thought this might be one that you would enjoy. Excuse my messy desk. Next time I'll try to clean up. And interesting, this book says from Mom in the front, so I thought that was really cool. I don't know who owned this book originally. The Moon is Down, Chapter 1. By 10:45, it was all over. The town was occupied, the defenders defeated, and the war was finished. The invader had prepared for this campaign as carefully as he had for larger ones. On this Sunday morning, the postman and the policeman had gone fishing in the boat of Mr. Correll, the popular storekeeper. He had lent them his trim sailboat for the day. The postman and the policeman were several miles at sea when they saw the small, dark transport loaded with soldiers go quietly past them. As officials of the town, this was definitely their business, and these two but of course, the battalion was in possession by the time they could make port. The policeman and the postman could not even get into their own offices in town hall, and when they insisted on their rights, they were taken prisoners of war and locked up in the town jail. The local troops, all 12 of them, had been put away. The local troops, all 12 of them, had been away, too, on this Sunday morning, for Mr. Correll, the popular storekeeper, had donated lunch, targets, cartridges, and prizes for a shooting competition to take place 6 miles back in the hills in a lovely glade Mr. Correll owned. The local troops, big, loose-hung boys, heard the planes in the distance and saw the parachutes, and when they came to town they came back to town at a double-quick step. When they arrived, the invader had flanked the road with machine guns. The loose-hung soldiers, having very little experience in war, and none at all in defeat, opened fire with their rifles. The machine guns clattered for a moment, and 6 of the soldiers became dead-riddled bundles and 3 half-dead riddled bundles, and 3 of the soldiers escaped into the hills with their rifles. By 10:30, the brass band of the invader was playing beautiful and sentimental music in the town square, while the townsmen, their mouths a little open and their eyes astonished, stood about listening to the music and staring at the gray-helmeted men who carried submachine guns in their arms. By 10:38, the riddled 6 were buried, the parachutes folded. The battalion was billeted in Mr. Correll's warehouse by the pier, which had on its shelves blankets and cots for a battalion. By 10:45, old Mayor Orden had received the formal request that he grant an audience to Colonel Lancer of the invaders, an audience which was set for 11 sharp at the mayor's 5-room palace. The drawing room of the palace was very sweet and comfortable. The gilded chairs covered with their worn tapestry were set about stiffly like too many servants with nothing to do. An arched marble fireplace held its little basket of red flameless heat, and a hand-painted coal scuttle stood on the hearth. On the mantel, flanked by fat vases, stood a large, curly porcelain clock which swarmed with tumbling cherubs. The wallpaper of the room was dark red with gold figures, and the woodwork was pretty white and clean. The paintings on the wall were largely preoccupied with the amazing heroism of large dogs faced with imperiled children. Nor water, nor fire, nor earthquake could do in a child so long as a big dog was available. Beside the fireplace, an old Dr. Winter sat, bearded and simple and benign, historian and physician to the town. He watched in amazement while his thumbs rolled over and over on his lap. Dr. Winter was a man so simple that only a profound man would know him as profound. He looked up at Joseph, the mayor's serving man, to see whether Joseph had observed the rolling wonders of his thumbs. 11 o'clock, Dr. Winter asked, and Joseph answered abstractedly, "Yes, sir." The note said 11. "You read the note?" "No, sir. His Excellency read the note to me." And Joseph went about testing each of the gilded chairs to see whether it had moved since the last placed. Joseph habitually scowled at the furniture, expecting it to be impertinent, mischievous, or dusty. In a world where Mayor Orden was the leader of men, Joseph was the leader of furniture, silver, and dishes. Joseph was elderly and lean and serious, and his life was so complicated that only a profound man would know him to be so simple. He saw nothing amazing about Dr. Winter's rolling thumbs. In fact, he found them irritating. Joseph suspected that something pretty important was happening, what with foreign soldiers in the town and the local army killed or captured. Sooner or later, Joseph would have to get an opinion about it all. He wanted no levity, no rolling thumbs, no nonsense from furniture. Dr. Winter moved his chair a few inches from its appointed place, and Joseph waited impatiently for the moment when he could put it back again. Dr. Winter repeated, 11 o'clock, and they'll be here then too. A time-minded people, Joseph. And Joseph said, without listening, yes, sir. A time-minded people, the doctor repeated. Yes, sir, said Joseph. Time and machines. Yes, sir. They hurried toward their destiny as though it would not wait. They pushed through the rolling world along with their shoulders, and Joseph said, quite right, sir, simply because he was getting tired of saying, yes, sir. Joseph did not approve of this line of conversation, since it did not help him to have an opinion about anything. If Joseph remarked to the cook later in the day, a time-minded people, Annie, it would not make any sense. Annie would ask, who? And then Joseph, why? And then finally say, that's nonsense, Joseph. Joseph had tried carrying Dr. Winter's remarks below stairs before, and it had always ended the same. Annie always discovered them to be nonsense. Dr. Winter looked up from his thumbs and watched Joseph disciplining the chairs. What's the mayor doing? Dressing to receive the colonel, sir. And you aren't helping him? He'll be ill-dressed by himself. Madam is helping him. Madam wants him to look his best. Joseph blushed a little. Madam is trimming the hairs out of his ears, sir. It tickles. He won't let me do it. Of course it tickles, said Dr. Winter. Madam insists, said Joseph. Dr. Winter laughed suddenly. He stood up and held his hands to the fire, and Joseph skillfully darted behind him and replaced the chair where it should be. We are so wonderful, the doctor said. Our country is falling, our town is conquered. And the mayor is about to receive the conqueror, and the madam is holding the struggling mayor by the back of the neck and trimming the hair out of his ears. He was getting very shaggy, said Joseph. His eyebrows, too. His Excellency is even more upset about having his eyebrows trimmed than his ears. He says it hurts. I doubt if Madam can even do it. She will try, Dr. Winter said. She wants him to look his best, sir. Through the glass window of the entrance door, a helmeted face looked in, and there was a rapping on the door. It seemed that some warm light went out of the room, and a little grayness took its place. Dr. Winter looked up at the clock and said, They are early. Let them in, Joseph. Joseph went to the door and opened it. A soldier stepped in, dressed in a long coat. He was helmeted, and he carried a submachine gun over his arm. He glanced quickly about and then stepped behind. Behind him, an officer stood in the doorway. The officer's uniform was common, and it had a rank showing only his soldiers. The officer stepped inside and looked at Dr. Winter. He was rather like an overdrawn picture of an English gentleman. He had a slouch. His face was red, his nose long but rather pleasing. He seemed about as unhappy in his uniform as most British general officers are. He stood in the doorway, staring at Dr. Winter, and he said, Are you Mayor Orden, sir? Dr. Winter smiled. No, I am not. You are an official, then? No. I am the town doctor, and I am a friend of the mayor. The officer said, Where is Mayor Orden? Dressing to receive you. You're the colonel? No, I am not. I am Captain Bentinck. And he bowed, and Dr. Winter returned the bow slightly. Captain Bentinck continued, as though embarrassed about what he had to say. Our military regulations, sir, prescribe that we search for weapons before the commanding officer enters the room. We mean no disrespect, sir. And he called over his soldiers. Sergeant. The sergeant moved quickly to Joseph, ran his hands over his pockets, and said, Nothing, sir. Captain Bentinck said to Dr. Winter, I hope you will pardon us, and the sergeant went to Dr. Winter, and he patted his pockets. His hand stopped at the inside coat pocket. He reached quickly in and brought out a little flat black leather case and took it to Captain Bentinck. Captain Bentinck opened the case and found there 2 simple surgical instruments, 2 scalpels, some surgical needles, some clamps, a hypodermic needle. He closed the case again and handed it back to Dr. Winter. Dr. Winter said, "You see, I'm a country doctor. One time I had to perform an appendectomy with a kitchen knife. I have always carried these with me since then." Captain Bentinck said, "I believe there are some firearms here," he said. He opened a little leather book that he carried in his pocket. Dr. Winter said, "You are thorough." "Yes, our local man has been working here for some time." Dr. Winter said, "I don't suppose you would tell who that man is." Bentinck said, "His work is all done now. I don't suppose there will be any harm in telling him. His name is Carell." And Dr. Winter said in astonishment, "George Carell? Why, that seems impossible. He's done a lot for this town. He even gave prizes for the shooting match in the hills this morning." And as he said it, his eyes began to understand what had happened. His mouth closed slowly, and he said, "I see. That is why he gave the shooting match. Yes, I see. But George Carell, that sounds impossible." The door to the left opened, and Mayor Orden came in. He was digging in his right ear with his little finger. He was dressed in his official morning coat, and his chain of office about his neck. He had a large, white, spraying mustache and two smaller ones, one over each eye. His white hair was so recently brushed that only now were the hairs struggling to be free to stand up again. He had been the mayor so long that he was the idea mayor in the town. Even grown people, when they saw the word mayor, printed or written, saw Mayor Orden in their minds. He and his office were one. It had given him dignity, and he had given it warmth. From behind him, Madame emerged, small and wrinkled and fierce. She was considered that she had created this man out of whole cloth, and had thought him up, and she was sure that she could do a better job if she had to do it again. Only once or twice in her life had she ever understood all of him, but the part of him which she knew intricately and well. No little appetite or pain, no carelessness or meanness in him had escaped her. No thought or dream or longing in him ever reached her. And yet several times in her life she had seen the stars. She stepped around Mayor, and she took his hands and pulled his finger out of his outraged ear and pushed his hand to his side the way she would take a baby's thumb from its mouth. "I don't believe for a moment it hurts as much as you say," she said to Dr. Winter. "He won't let me fix his eyebrows." "It hurts," says Mayor Orden. "Very well, if you want to look like that, there is nothing I can do about it. If you want to look like that, there is nothing I can do about it." She straightened his already straight tie. "I'm glad you are here, Doctor," she said. "How many do you think will come?" And then she looked up and saw Captain Bentinck. "Oh," she said, "the Colonel." Captain Bentinck said, "No, ma'am. I am only preparing for the Colonel, Sergeant." The sergeant, who had been turning over pillows, looking behind pictures, came quickly to Mayor Orden and ran his hands over his pockets. Captain Bentinck said, "Excuse me, sir, it's regulations." "Excuse him, sir, it's regulations." He glanced again at the little book in his hands. "Your Excellency, I think you have firearms here. 2 items, I believe." Mayor Orden said, "Firearms? Guns, you mean?" "I guess. Yes, I have a shotgun and a sporting rifle." He said depreciatingly, "You know, I don't hunt very much anymore. I always think I'm going to, and then the season opens and I don't get out. I don't take to the pleasure in it that I used to." Captain Bentinck insisted, "Where are these guns, Your Excellency?" The mayor rubbed his cheek and tried to think. "Why, I think," he turned to Madame, "weren't they in the back of the cabinet in the bedroom with the walking sticks?" Madame said, "Yes, and every stitch of clothing in that cabinet smells of oil. I wish you'd put them somewhere else." Captain Bentinck said, "Sergeant!" and the sergeant went quickly into the bedroom. "It's an unpleasant duty. I'm sorry," said the captain. The sergeant came back carrying the double-barreled shotgun and a rather nice sporting rifle with a shoulder strap. He leaned them against the side of the entrance door. Captain Bentinck said, "That's all, thank you, Your Excellency." "Thank you, Madame." He turned and bowed slightly to Dr. Winter. "Thank you, Doctor. Colonel and sir will be here directly. Good morning." And then he went out the front door, followed by the sergeant with the 2 guns in one hand and the submachine over his right arm. Madame said, "For a moment I thought he was the Colonel. He was a rather nice-looking young man." Dr. Winter said sardonically, No, he was just protecting the colonel. Madame was thinking, I wonder how many officers will come, and she looked at Joseph and saw that he was shamelessly eavesdropping. She shook her head at him and frowned and went back to the little things he had been doing. He began dusting all over again, and Madame said, How many do you think will come? Dr. Winter pulled out the chair outrageously and sat down again. I don't know, he said. Well, she frowned at Joseph. We've all been talking over it. Should we offer them tea or a glass of wine? If we do, I don't know how many there will be, and if we don't, what will they do? Dr. Winter shook his head and smiled. I don't know. It's been so long since we conquered anybody, or anybody conquered us. I don't know what is proper. Mayor Orden had his finger back in his itching ear. Well, I don't think we should. I don't think the people would like it. I don't want to drink wine with them. I don't know why. Madame appealed to the doctor then. Didn't people drink in the old days, the leaders, that is, compliment each other and take a glass of wine? Dr. Winter nodded. Yes, they did. He shook his head slowly. Maybe that was different. Kings and princes played at war the way Englishmen play at hunting. And when the fox was dead, they gathered at a hunt breakfast. But Mayor Orden is probably right. The people might not like to drink with wine with an invader. Madame said, The people are down listening to music, Annie told me. If they can do that, why shouldn't we keep civilized procedure alive? The mayor stared steadily at her for a moment, and his voice was sharp. Madame, I think, with your permission, we will not have wine. The people are confused now. They have to live at peace so long, and they do not quite believe in war. They will learn, and then they will not be confused any more. They elected me to not be confused. 6 town boys were murdered this morning. I think we will have no hunt for breakfast. The people do not fight wars for sport. Madame bowed slightly. There had been a number of times in her life when her husband had become the mayor. She had learned not to confuse the mayor with her husband. The Mayor Orden looked at his watch, and then Joseph came in carrying a small cup of black coffee. He took it absent-mindedly. Thank you, he said, and he sipped it. I should be clear, he said apologetically to Dr. Winter. I should be. Do you know how many men the invader has? Not many, the doctor said. I don't think over 250, but all those little machine guns. The mayor sipped his coffee again and made a new start. What about the rest of the country? The doctor raised his shoulders and dropped them again. Was there no resistance anywhere? The mayor went on hopelessly. And again, the doctor raised his shoulders. I don't know. The wires were cut or captured. There is no news. And our boys, our soldiers? I don't know, said the doctor. Joseph interrupted. I heard, that is, Annie heard. What, Joseph? 6 men were killed, sir, by machine guns. Annie heard 3 were wounded and captured. But there were 12. Annie heard 3 escaped. The mayor turned sharply. Which ones escaped, he demanded. I don't know. Annie didn't hear. Madame inspected a table for dust with her finger. She said, Joseph, when they come, stay close to your bell. We might want some little thing. And put on your coat, Joseph, the one with the buttons. She thought for a moment. And Joseph, when you finish what you are told to do, go out of the room. It makes a bad impression when you just stand around listening. It's provincial, that's what it is. Yes, madame, said Joseph. We won't serve wine, Joseph, but you might have some cigarettes handy in that little silver conserve box. And don't strike the match to light the colonel's cigarette on your shoe. Strike it on the matchbox. Yes, madame. Mayor Orden unbuttoned his coat and took out his watch and looked at it and put it back and buttoned his coat again, one button too high. Madame went to him and rebuttoned it correctly. Dr. Winter asked, What time is it? 5 of 11. A time-minded people, the doctor said. They will be here on time. Do you want me to go away? Mayor Orden looked startled. Go? No, stay, he laughed softly. I'm a little afraid, he said apologetically. Well, I'm not afraid, but I'm nervous. And he said helplessly, We've never been conquered for a long time. He stopped to listen. In the distance, there was the sound of a band, music, a march. They all turned in its direction and listened. Madame said, Here they come. I hope not too many will try to crowd in here at once. It isn't a very big room. Dr. Winter said sardonically, Madame would prefer the Hall of Mirrors at Versailles. She pinched her lips and looked about, already placing the conquerors with her mind. It is a very small room, she said. The band music swelled a little and then grew fainter. There came a gentle tap at the door. Now who can that be? Joseph, if it is anyone, tell him to come back later. We are very busy. The tap came again. Joseph went to the door and opened the crack, and in a little water, a gray figure, helmeted and gantleted, appeared. Colonel Lancer's compliments, the head said. Colonel Lancer requests an audience with your excellency. Joseph opened the door wide. The helmeted orderly stepped inside and looked about the room and then stood aside. Colonel Lancer, he announced. A second helmeted figure walked into the room. His rank showed only by his shoulders. Behind him came a rather short man in a black business suit. The colonel was a middle-aged man, gray and tired-looking. He had the square shoulders of a soldier, but his eyes lacked the blank look of the ordinary soldier. The little man beside him was bold and rosy-cheeked, and had small black eyes with a sensual mouth. Colonel Lancer took off his helmet, and with a quick bow he said, Your Excellency. He bowed to Madame. Madame, he said, close the door, please, Corporal. Joseph quickly shut the door and stared in small triumph at the soldier. Lancer looked questioningly at the doctor, and the mayor ordered said, This is Dr. Winter. An official, said the colonel. A doctor, sir, and I might say, the local historian. Lancer bowed slightly. He said, Dr. Winter, I did not mean to be impertinent, but there will be a page in your history, perhaps, and Dr. Winter smiled, many pages, perhaps. Colonel Lancer turned slightly toward his companion. I think you know Mr. Carell, he said. The mayor said, George Carell, of course I know him. How are you, George? Dr. Winter cut in sharply. He said very formally, Your Excellency, our friend George Carell prepared this town for the invasion. Our benefactor, George Carell, sent soldiers into the hills. Our dinner guest, George Carell, has made a list of every firearm in this town. Our friend, George Carell. Carell said angrily, I work for what I believe in. That is an honorable thing. Orden's mouth hung open a little. He was bewildered. He looked helplessly from Winter to Carell. This isn't true, he said. George, this isn't true. You have sat at my table. You have drunk port with me. Why, you have helped me plan the hospital. This isn't true. He was looking very steadily at Carell, and Carell looked belligerently back at him. There was a long silence, and the mayor's face grew slowly tight and very formal, and his whole body grew rigid. He turned to Colonel Lancer and said, I do not wish to speak in this gentleman's company. Carell said, I have a right to be here. I am a soldier like the rest. I simply do not wear a uniform. The mayor repeated, I do not wish to speak in this gentleman's presence. Colonel Lancer said, Will you leave us now, Mr. Carell? And Carell said, I have a right to be here. Lancer repeated sharply, Will you leave us now, Mr. Carell? Do you outrank me? Well, no, sir. Please go, Mr. Carell, said Colonel Lancer. And then Carell looked at Mayor angrily, and then turned and went quickly out of the doorway. Dr. Winter chuckled and said, That's good enough for a paragraph in my history. Colonel Lancer glanced sharply at him, but he did not speak. Now, the door on the right opened, and the straw-haired, red-eyed Annie put an angry face into the doorway. There's soldiers at the back porch, madam, just standing there. They won't come in, Colonel Lancer said. It's only military procedure. Madam said icily, Annie, if you have anything to say, let Joseph bring the message. I didn't know they'd tried to get in. I didn't know but what they'd tried to get in, Annie said. They smelled the coffee. Annie. Yes, madame, she said, and withdrew. The colonel said, May I sit down? He explained, We have been a long time without sleep. The mayor seemed to start out of sleep himself. Yes, of course, sit down. The colonel looked at madame, and she seated herself, and he seated tiredly into a chair. Mayor Orden stood still half dreaming. The colonel began, We want to get along as well as we can. You see, sir, this is more like a business venture than anything else. We need the coal mine and the fishing. We will try to get along with just as little friction as possible." The mayor said, "I have had no news. What about the rest of the country?" "All taken," said the colonel. "It was well planned." "Was there no resistance anywhere?" The colonel looked at him compassionately. "I wish there had not been. Yes, there was some resistance, but it only caused bloodshed. We had planned very carefully." Orden struck to his point. "But there was resistance." "Yes, but it was foolish to resist. Just as here, it was destroyed instantly. It was sad and foolish to resist." Dr. Winter caught some of the mayor's anxiousness about a point. "Yes," he said, "foolish, but they resisted." And Colonel Lancer replied, "Only a few, and they are gone. The people as a whole are quiet." Dr. Winter said, "The people don't know yet what has happened." "They are discovering," said Lancer. "They won't be foolish again." He cleared his throat, and his voice became brisk. "Now, sir, I must get to business. I'm really very tired, but before I can sleep, I must make my arrangements." He sat forward in his chair. "I am more an engineer than a soldier. The whole thing is more an engineering job than a conquest. The coal must come out of the ground and must be shipped. We have technicians, but the local people will continue to do the work, to work the mine. Is that clear? We do not want to be harsh." And Orden said, "Yes, that's clear enough, but suppose the people do not want to work the mine?" The colonel said, "I hope they will want to, because they must. We must have the coal. But what if they don't? They must. They are an orderly people. They don't want trouble." He waited for a mayor's reply, and none came. "Is that not so, sir?" the colonel asked. Mayor Orden twisted his chin. "I don't know, sir. They are orderly when under their own government. I don't know how they will be under yours. It is untouched ground, you see. We have built our government over 400 years. The colonel said quickly, "We know that, and so we are going to keep your government. You will still be the mayor. You will still give the orders. You will penalize and reward. In that way, they will not give trouble." Mayor Orden looked at Dr. Winter. "What are you thinking about?" "I don't know," said Dr. Winter. "It would be interesting to see. I'd expect trouble. This might be a bitter people." Mayor Orden said, "I don't know either." He turned to the colonel. "Sir, I am of this people, and yet I do not know what they will do. Perhaps you know. Some people accept appointed leaders and obey them, but my people have elected me. They made me, and they can unmake me. Perhaps they will if they think I'm gone over to you. I just don't know." The colonel said, "You will be doing them a service if you keep them in order." "A service?" "Yes, a service. It's your duty to protect them from harm, and they will be in danger if they are rebellious. We must get the coal, you see. Our leaders do not tell us, they order us to get it. But you have your people to protect. You must make them do the work, and thus keep them safe." Mayor Orden asked, "But suppose they don't want to be safe?" "Then you must think for them." Orden said, a little proudly, "My people don't like to have others think for them. Maybe they are different from your people. I am confused, but that I am sure of." Now Joseph came in quickly, and he stood, leaning forward, bursting to speak. Madame said, "What is it, Joseph? Get the silver box of cigarettes." "Pardon, Madame," said Joseph. "Pardon, Your Excellency. What do you want?" the mayor asked. "It's Annie," she said. "She's getting angry, sir." "What's the matter?" Madame demanded. "Annie doesn't like the soldiers on the back porch." The colonel asked, "Are they causing trouble?" "They are looking through the door at Annie," said Joseph. "She hates that." The colonel said, "They are carrying out their orders. They are doing no harm." "Well, Annie hates to be stared at," said Joseph. Madame said, "Joseph, tell Annie to take care." "Yes, Madame," said Joseph, and Joseph went out. The colonel's eyes dropped with tiredness. "There's another thing, Your Excellency. Would it be possible for me and my staff to stay here?" Mayor Orden thought for a moment. He said, "It's a small place. There are larger, more comfortable places." And then Joseph came back with a silver box of cigarettes. And he opened it and he held it in front of the colonel. When the colonel took one, Joseph ostentatiously lighted it, and then the colonel puffed deeply. "It isn't that," he said. "We have found that when staff lives under one roof, the roof of the local authority, there is more tranquility." You mean, said Orden, that the people feel there is more collaboration involved? Yes, I suppose that's it. Mayor Orden looked hopelessly at Dr. Winter, and Dr. Winter could offer him nothing but a wry smile. Orden said softly, "Am I permitted to refuse this honor?" "I'm sorry," said the colonel. "These are the orders of my leader." "The people will not like it," Orden said. "Always the people. The people are disarmed. The people have no say." Mayor Orden shook his head. "You do not know, sir." From the doorway came the sound of an angry woman's voice, and the thump, and a man's cry. Joseph came scuttling through the door. "She's thrown boiling water," Joseph said. "She's very angry." There were commands through the door and the clump of feet. Colonel Lancer got up heavily. "Have you no control over your servants, sir?" he asked. Mayor Orden smiled. "Very little," he said. "She's a good cook when she is happy. Was anyone hurt?" he asked Joseph. "The water is boiling, sir."